digital radio, on the app, on your smartphone, on X, YouTube, and Facebook. The Sports Cast. Expect the unexpected.
The update presented by the Sportscast.
The Sportscast, May 30th, 2025. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to all our channels, YouTube, Facebook, X, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can also listen to us on your smart speaker. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. We're also on online digital radio. You can visit our website, thesportscast.net. Also, follow us on X at the Sportscast1. Also, Instagram, the Sportscast1. And check out our app, the Sportscast, for the iOS. You can also check out our clips from our shows. If you're not listening like the whole way or watching, you can watch the clips. We select like the best clips from each show, and you'll get the gist of what we talked about. Anyways, it is our last show in May. June is going to be pretty good. A lot going on. NBA, Knicks winning last night, but joining us all the way from upstate New York, Gabe Esparza. Welcome back.
Hello, Santiago. Thank you.
Gabe, you've been watching a lot of sports. What can you say was the highlight of this month of May in sports?
Ooh. Oh yeah. I don't know. We've had a lot go on this month for sure. In terms of the highlight, for me, I've enjoyed the NBA playoffs a lot. I
Gotten
think they've
better
been
this year.
spectacular. I think so. I think so, Santiago. It's been great. But for me, I'm gonna say Champions League.
Champions League was good. I would say the NBA playoffs was the highlight. I think the reason why the NBA playoffs, I think it was dull the past couple of years, I guess you can say. But we're going to see a new champion this year. Oklahoma City Thunder is in the running, which, by the way, they used to be the Seattle Supersonics, and they've got the New York Knicks. They have won in the past, but that was in 1973. And then we got Indiana Pacers. They've never won an NBA championship. So we're going to see kind of a new champion. You know how it is in the NBA. Like, if you haven't won it, in like 30 years, you're still like kind of new in a way. But
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens. We'll talk Champions League a little bit later. But last night, the New York Knicks beat the Indiana Pacers to force a Game 6 behind Jalen Brunson's 32 points and Karl Anthony Towns' 24 points, which he was rumored to not play because of an injury. But these two have become the third duo in NBA history to each score 20 points in the first 5 games of the conference finals. Horrible game by the Pacers. Halliburton only had 8 points. Not much motivation. But what were your thoughts of the New York Knicks last night?
Yeah, it was obviously a game that New York that they needed to win and they played like it. And it always is odd to me how that can happen in sports where the Pacers, they look mild and, head and shoulders better than the Knicks for a lot of this series. And now we go to the Garden and it's, oh my goodness, are the Knicks about to reel off 3 straight? It could happen. I still think it'll be tough. To be honest with you, even if they do steal the next game and force a Game 7, I don't think that we see a repeat performance of what we saw last night for the Pacers again. I just don't see that. And then anything can happen in Game 7. So I still think obviously you have to go with the Pacers winning, but you have to give credit to the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks had a good game last night. I think the number one word that I've been hearing why the Pacers didn't win was motivation. Look at the highest scoring player from the Pacers was Benedict Mathurin with 23. I never heard this player before. He was the highest scorer. Then you got Pascal Siakam with 15 and Halliburton at 8 points. Obi Toppin 11. They just was a huge no show. Now I've seen this before in playoffs, Gabe,
Yep.
where if the team is on the brink of elimination, they try to win that game that the other team could clinch. So I've seen that plenty of times in the NBA. And the Knicks, Towns 24, Brunson 32, Mikal Bridges 12, Josh Hart 12. But you're right. I mean, it could happen. They could force a game 7, but the Knicks winning 3 games in a row, that's a whole lot to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
But we shall see. We shall see. But you got the Pacers winning the next game, right?
I think so. I like this Pacers team has looked better, and they have Tyrese Halliburton, and I wouldn't classify him as a superstar. Me personally, I think he's a good player, but he's not at that level. And so you have him, and then you have a bunch of guys that just really fit well together. You know, TJ McConnell, hustle guy, Pascal Siakam, Swiss Army knife. So that's the kind of roster that you have with the Pacers. Miles Turner, been a fan of his since Texas, defensively especially. Then Obi Toppin, maybe he gets his revenge on his former team. We'll see. So it's a
That's
really
true.
neat Pacers team, and that's what makes this matchup and what has made this series intriguing. Even though it looked for a half second like it might end in 5.
Yeah, it might end in 5. It might end in 6. If it goes to 6 games, in my opinion, it is a close series. But Pacers beating the Cavaliers, I thought, wow, it would either like how it's bogus. But now seeing how they beat the Cavaliers, now being the Knicks, I think they're a legit team. Are they going to be contenders every year? Perhaps they're young. They had no and also you have to include this. Like there was a Celtics factor. If if Boston was healthy this year, maybe Indiana would not have gone past them, right?
Or wasn't it New York?
No, if the Celtics beat the Knicks, let's say they were healthy, 100%, whatever,
Oh, I see.
and they meet Indiana in the Eastern Conference of Finals, I don't think Indiana would have gone
Yes.
past, but
Yes.
Boston.
My
So
fault.
no, it's okay. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, like
I
the
like it.
variables are. What was that?
So no, I like your theory.
Yeah, exactly. All the sometimes these variables really matter. Like certain superstar teams, they're not 100%. Gives a chance for other smaller teams to go advance, be contenders, and this is Indiana's shot. This is like their good window to surpass. But they got to face potentially a Oklahoma City Thunder team who beat the Timberwolves in 5 games. This was a blowout. Timberwolves did have a good game 4 or game 5. They had I think they had 140 points. But what were your thoughts over this series?
Listen, I will admit to you, I had coming into this series, I had Minnesota, and that just didn't happen. And there, you can go at this one of 2 ways. Sticking with Minnesota for a half moment, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be in the conversation of being within the top 3, top 4 teams in the West for a while to come. But Anthony Edwards is probably still a little bit too young where he can lead this team past the Western Conference Finals, and that's just how it tends to be. You have your superstar who's truly in his prime, and so why I say you can look at that one of 2 ways. It's, well, will Anthony Edwards, will he figure it out? Will he mature? Will he reach that next level, or is this the peak? If this is the peak, then then yeah, you're stuck. um, but if you believe in Anthony Edwards, and by all means, it seems like he's someone who's willing to work hard, even if some of his antics may rub people the wrong way. That's fine. Um, if you like you have to like the score, how the Timberwolves, they went out and made a move, and it was one of those rare trades too. I'm talking about that with the Knicks, where it seems like both sides kind of got something. Neither side really lost, and both sides kind of steadied their roster a little bit. So we'll see. This could end up being the peak, like I said, but I expect them to at least hang around for a little bit longer.
as Gabe was talking about the trade between Julius Randle and Carl Anthony Towns, who had who had the upswing in this trade? Was it the Timberwolves with Randle or the Knicks with Carl Anthony Towns?
The upswing, that's a great way to ask it. Upswing, you have to go Knicks because of what Cat can bring you. The only question is, will will the big bodega do it on a consistent basis? And by consistent basis, I mean he needs to do it in 2 more games.
Interesting enough. Yeah, and he is not 100%. So we'll see what happens with Carl Anthony Towns. Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards likes him a lot. As Gabe said, he's only 23 years old, but he's been to 2 Western Conference finals back to back. That's pretty impressive for that age. Look, he didn't go to the finals this year. It's okay. He's a lot more years left. It took Michael Jordan until he was 28 years old to make it to the championship series. Let's look at OKC, young team, oldest person, 31 years old. The star, Shea Gillis Alexander, only 26 years old. Actually, a little bit younger than Anthony Edwards. What a series! He had 34 points on Game 5. Chet Holmgren, 22. Jalen Williams, 19. What's up with this OKC team? They finished number 1 in the Western Conference. Your thoughts over this OKC team?
Yeah, so this is a great example of kind of what I just said. So you have Chet Holmgren, who's 23, and Anthony Edwards being 23. If Chet Holmgren was the best player on this OKC team, what's their ceiling? You know, they're probably good, but they're not making it to the finals. But he doesn't have to be the best player on the team. First of all, this is a great roster anyway. But then you have SGA, who's entering his prime now at 26. So a lot of people don't like the way that SGA goes about baiting fouls. I'll include myself in that camp. I wish he would just play more straight up at times because he can be so good, and it's a shame that some of the conversation then ends up going back to that aspect. But you can't take away that this team. You want to talk about set up for the long haul? Goodness, this OKC team is impressive. I'm curious how it will look against either the Knicks and that that force that they have there in New York, or against a more well-rounded Pacers team. Just a lot of hustlers and depth there in Indiana. Very curious to see how that matchup will work out, but they will get a little bit of advantage. A couple more days off this OKC team will have.
Russ will be an advantage there. OKC is the team to beat. If it's either Indiana or New York, do you consider them the favorites? Whoever they match up with?
Good question. I think so.
I would think so too. Young team. They haven't been to the finals in 13 years since the Kevin Durant days, and it should be something else. Pretty excited about this club. So we'll see what happens. But we still have Game 6 tomorrow in Indiana. We'll get the prediction from Gabe and I a little bit later in the show. Another big matchup this weekend, Champions League final between PSG versus Inter Milan. 2 teams. One team, PSG has never won it. Inter Milan has won in the past. They take the field in Munich, which is where it will take place, the venue for the ultimate prize in European soccer. Milan is chasing its 4th title, Gabe, and PSG will be its first if they win it tomorrow, as well as the rare treble after already capturing its league and domestic cup. What is your thoughts over this finale? It is kind of sexy because PSG has a good team. Inter Milan is very defensive. But what are your thoughts on this matchup for tomorrow?
Yeah, this is a really, really great matchup. PSG, they're a young team, and they have this style where they're just all out attack. Caution to the wind. They are very much okay with giving up 2 goals or 3 goals, even knowing that they can score 4. They're very, very comfortable with that, and they play with a certain level of fearlessness. So it makes it very intriguing. And then Inter Milan, I like Simone Inzaghi a lot. He does a lot of interesting things in the midfield. The way he'll forced teams to do stuff that they didn't necessarily want to do. And by all accounts, their path to the Champions League, you have to say that this is a resilient bunch. And even when it looks like that they're in a hopeless situation, they've proven time and time again where that's just simply not the case. So this doesn't always happen. I understand everyone likes Barcelona. Everyone's enthralled with the Yamal story, and fair enough. Fair enough. Barca were a little bit too weak at the back for me, and so for me now, these are the two best teams in Europe that got through, and that doesn't always happen in tournament play. We know that that doesn't happen. So there are plenty of instances where the opposite has happened. So I'm glad it's going to be one of these two teams that will end up lifting the trophy here.
Yeah, let's look at the path of Inter Milan. They beat Feyenoord in the round of 16. Then in the quarterfinal, they beat Bayern Munich, which that was a massive win. And then in the semi, they beat Barcelona, as Gabe said, one of the favorite teams, young Yamal, who might win the Ballon d'Or. He'll be competing against Salah probably. And then how did PSG get there? They beat PS. No, not they didn't beat PSV. They beat Liverpool, my Liverpool. That was a long time ago. And then they beat your Aston Villa. That was a good matchup there. And then Arsenal, they beat, which Arsenal had a good, not good shot, but they made that far, was pretty impressive. And now they go Inter. What about this PSG team? Obviously, you got Dumbla. I forget his first name, but Dembele, one of the stars of this squad. This squad does not have the Mbappes. They don't have the Messis. They don't have the Neymar, but it is a little bit of a less star-studded team. But what do you think about the squad?
No, but they have plenty. They have plenty of attacking options. Enough so where they were very comfortable of letting go of Marco Asensio. He went on loan to Aston Villa, and they're still four deep. You see right there the players there, between Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Doué, and Barcola. And so if for whatever reason the PSG attack isn't working at any point, they can then sub in one of those guys out. So it's just really good. And then that midfield engine that's pretty good too, João Neves and Vitinha. So this is a team that, like you said, they've moved on from the Mbappe and Messi era, and they're playing. They're just playing better team style. And it's a lot of fun to watch.
A lot of fun to watch, of course, headed by Luis Enrique, another good manager that typically manager in PSG don't last for a year or two. This guy is lasting a bit. He's probably going into his third season, no matter what. But I think the squad is pretty impressive. I think there's more pressure with PSG to win it because they've been working on this for years, maybe for a decade, to get this trophy. Don't you think?
Yeah, true.
But
I think they'll be favored too, to your point.
yeah, which I'm looking up the odds. I'm not sure if you okay. So PSG are the plus 120 favorites to win.
Yep.
And then, of course, there could be extra time. How do you see this game forming out? Do you think there'll be an extra time, or you think this will be decided in regulation time?
No. If Inter Milan had their way, it would go to extra time. But this is PSG. They're gonna play the same way. They don't care that it's the Champions League final. They're going to play the same way. It's they're either going to be up to around the 70th minute mark, or they'll be chasing a goal. But they'll keep it entertaining for sure. The only way that we make it to extra time is if it's 3-3.
Oof, which could I don't think I've seen a lot of goals in the Champions League final,
No.
as far as I remember. They're usually close
No.
matches. A year ago was Madrid. I think Madrid beat Dortmund 3-1 in regulation, so it was a quick match. Let's look at the last couple of matchups between these two. PSG lost against Inter Milan in 2023, 2-1, and then but in total has been 3 wins by PSG, 1 win by Inter Milan, and 1 draw. So interesting stat line, but probably the rosters were completely different. So I wouldn't put too much on the past history. But any closing thoughts over this matchup?
Yeah, PSG is the favorite, and they sure do have a lot of great pace, a lot of great skill, particularly on the wings. But Inter Milan knows that, and they've already showed that they can compete with the Yamals of the world. So I'm gonna just say for me, I'm going to sprinkle. I'm not gonna go reckless here, but I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Inter Milan money line.
There you go. Inter Milan is what you got. They play a lot of defensive football, so we'll see what happens. Let's go into college uh, basketball, which they ended about a couple weeks ago. They want to try to expand 68 teams to potentially 72 or 76. The NCAA president Charlie Baker revealed that one of his top priorities was to discuss expanding March Madness. He said that would be the goal to try and do this for next year. Baker said we've been talking about 72, 76 teams. This is a massive development. What are your thoughts over this? I know with the NIL and there were a lot of blowouts and everything else, but do you think expansion is necessary? I know in college football they're going to do it, but you think it's necessary for basketball with a already big bracket?
Yeah, I don't like it. We already have it. We had it at 64, now it's at 68. And I believe the number I saw was 72 to 76.
Correct. Yeah.
I why? Why? Oh, look at that. Why? Why? I'd rather teams just take the NIT more seriously, or this new Fox AEG. I'd rather you just put a little more stock into that versus watering down the March Madness tournament field. Why are we already have people that are quote snubbed because they can't make the first 68, and we're going to have the same conversation now. Just put your team in a position where it's not a question, and if you fall outside among flawed resumes at the end and don't receive that invite to March Madness, win the NIT.
Exactly. Quite something. We'll see what happens. Nothing's been decided, but this is projected to happen. If it does happen, gets voted on probably for the 2026 season. So we'll find out in a few days or weeks. Let's go to hockey.
Mhm.
Oilers beat the Stars 6-3 to win the West Finals in 5 games and set up the rematch with the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup final. Gabe, unbelievable. I don't think I can remember a rematch. Maybe the Avalanche did that with the Panthers back in the late 90s, but your thoughts over the Stanley Cup showdown?
Oh, Santiago, this is a beautiful moment in sports history. And here's why. We get this rematch, and Canada has this chance to win the Stanley Cup. And you know what will happen this year, just like it happened last year, and just like it will continue to happen for the end of the time. A US based, a true American team is going to win it. USA, USA.
It's quite something. I'm a Florida Panthers fan, and
Oh,
South
really?
Florida has been Panther craze right now. Obviously, it's the only team that is in the postseason contending for a title. The Miami Heat's gone. Of course, it's for NFL is not in season yet. But this could be a good one. Rematch back to back. We won our first Stanley Cup title last year, and to win it again will be something. This is the rematch. Edmonton wants it, so I think they're more power hungry than the Panthers, to be honest. Because hey, they lost
Maybe.
last year, which they were down 3-1 last year, and now they have the chance to win it. So
Kidding aside, it should be a good series again. In terms of how the individual games end up playing out. So we'll see. So I've staked my claim in terms of what my rooting interests are. But yeah, it's quite something to see this rematch again, and Edmonton winning it. It wouldn't be a fluke or anything like that. They're a good team, but I think Florida, your Panthers, they won it last year. They're in this position again for a reason. Like they're do you know who's favored in this? I'd be interested.
I think the Panthers are.
I
I
have
did
to.
hear
I was gonna
Panthers
say,
were
yeah,
favorite. Panthers
which makes
odds
sense to me.
Stanley Cup. Let's see here. Oh yeah. So right now, according to Florida Panthers, are currently favored to win the Stanley Cup with odds of plus
Mhm.
105. The Edmonton Oilers are the main competition with odds of plus 110. This is a rematch. Okay. So Florida's favorite. What do you think about those odds?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I do like what you said though about that motivation piece. That can play a big part in sports for sure. I think that this Florida Panthers team is good enough, and they've learned from last year and throughout this past regular season and up till now in the playoffs, kind of how to deal with wearing the crown. And Edmonton's going to have to take it from them, and I don't think that they'll be able to.
Yeah, it's quite something. Let's go into the last part of the show, the 2024-25 Premier League recap. We already knew the Liverpool won back in April, but we did not know who will finish going to the Champions League. Arsenal finished number 2, which they were a week early. Then Man City number 3, 4 Chelsea, 5 Newcastle, Aston Villa 6, Nottingham Forest 7, which they were running at the top 4 for a while, but you know how the Premier League is. You got to play all the way to the end. And then Crystal Palace made it to the Champions League. No, the Europa League. I don't. Anyways, yeah, Europa
Yeah.
League. But what were your thoughts over last week's finishing touches of the Premier League?
Oh, and then Tottenham. You notice that you have to scroll for 4 years before you
Oh
get to that
yeah,
team.
exactly. Which they won this past week. They won
Yep.
the UEFA Conference League, so they have a path to the Europa League.
Or no. They won the Europa League, so they're going to be in the Champions League now.
Oh, Champions League. My bad. I was thinking about Chelsea. My bad.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to the Champions League.
Yeah.
Congrats to Tottenham. And Ange
Absolutely
Postecoglou
ridiculous.
wins trophies in the second year. So
Yes. And season 3 is always better. But
I hope.
absolutely ridiculous that we have our 17th place team playing in the Champions League next year. But credit to them, they won the competition that they needed to. But it's a little silly. They had 38 points. But anyway, in terms of the Premier League, yeah, this is why. And I know some or I should say, I know a lot of people disagree with me about this point, but this is why I always put way more stock in terms of, for example, Ballon d'Or, Team of the Year, who's the best player in general. I put way more stock in the Premier League season versus how someone does in, say, the European Championships or World Cup, because of the grind from late August until late May. It's 38 games. You're also dealing with Champions League, FA Cup, EFL Cup. And so then by the end of the season, there isn't a question of who the best team is, and that was your Liverpool. And
Yeah.
they mathematically sealed it in April. We all
Early
knew
April,
by December, all right, they're running away with this. So
yeah,
credit
quite
to
something.
them.
Yeah, quite
Yeah,
something
just
with
credit
Liverpool.
to them, and it just goes to show in terms of this league itself. Like you said, Nottingham, they looked like they were going to qualify for Champions League again. They fell off toward the end. That's just how it happened. Newcastle, they win the EFL Cup, and now they're in. Aston Villa, they did really well toward the later part of the year, but they didn't get enough points earlier on where a late decision, it didn't go their way, and so now they're going to be in Europa League. So that's what makes this so incredible, and that's why I put way more emphasis and I give Liverpool all that much more credit. And I hope you've seen this too, Santiago, for your Liverpool team. Yeah, you lose TAA, and that's all well and good, but you're getting Florian Wirtz, so I don't think you can be too upset.
Yes, exactly. Florian Wirtz is also coming along to Liverpool, but quite something. They're rebuilding, retooling. Before we go, Aston Villa, what are your thoughts? What did they need to do to retool to have a good squad next season? They didn't do too bad when they lost the Colombian Honduran to Saudi Arabia, but you guys did well towards the end. But what are your thoughts over Aston Villa, and what can they do better for next season?
Yeah, they're going to be facing something of a PSR fight first in terms of who are they going to sell off. I mean, some people think it'll be Emiliano Martinez heading over to.
Yes, he was
heading over to-
crying in his final match of the season at Aston Villa. So do you think
So
he's
we'll
gone?
see. We'll see what happens there. Goodness, I don't think so, and I hope not, because it's so much fun watching him at Aston Villa. What do they need to do? I think they need to write off the ship of Marcus Rashford. He's too expensive. Convert that Marco Asensio loan spell into a permanent signing, and then go after one more player. You don't have to go too nutso. Oh, there you go. Congratulations, you get him too.
Yep. Morning.
Go after one more player, but for the most part, I wouldn't panic buy. I wouldn't panic sell. I think you're mostly fine. You just can't act recklessly. I've even seen some throwing out potentially bringing on Alejandro Garnacho.
Yes. Manchester United's head coach Amorim told and was rumored out, leaked out, that he did not want Garnacho back in Manchester United next season. I can see why, but him going to Aston Villa worked well. Do you guys think you can keep Rashford, or you think he's too expensive and they're gonna let him go somewhere else?
Yeah, I think he's going to Barca.
I heard that. I don't know why a lot of these big players are linked to Barcelona, but I guess they always try to get the money for it. It feels like they're broke most of the time. But anyways, good for that. But Rashford was a good pickup, I thought.
Oh yeah, no, he played well.
Well, quite something. There you have it. That is our Sports Friday recap show. Gabe, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, where you're writing at, and how can people find you?
Of course not. Thank you again, Santiago. Love what we're doing here at the Sportscast One. You can find me at Reign of Troy and Claret Villains. That's where my primary writing is at, and yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, he writes for the USC football team and also Aston Villa, so he has the inside of both those teams' organizations. You can follow us on the sportscast.net, our website. Also, the Sportscast One and X and Instagram will be live tweeting this weekend. NBA playoffs and the Champions League finale. Looking forward to it. So you pick Inter Milan to win it. By how much? By a penalty shootout or regulation 2-0? Like, what is your
Give me a half goal?
Prediction? A half goal enough by Inter Milan. I got PSG. I think they deserve. They humble themselves. Given 2-1, maybe 1-2. Yeah, 2-1 is a good safe one. And who you have for game 6? Knicks at Pacers.
Indiana.
Indiana closes out in Indy. You can't ask for anything more in sports. You cannot be bored this weekend. You got the Giro Italia as well. So if you're into racing, go for it. Anyways, this was our Friday Cap show. Gabe, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And this was your update.